Hey everybody, Mark from Northeast Bass Fishing. How you doing? I'm going to do a video today on jigs, and this is a request from Grandpa Woody. So Grandpa Woody, this one's for you. And I'm going to just kind of talk about the jigs I like to throw, how I throw them, and how I set them up. So let me just show you, before I actually get into the jigs themselves, I think an important aspect that maybe some people forget is your setup. And I've got a couple different rods here. This is an Ardent flip and pitch rod. This is a 7.5 medium heavy. That's just a 1/2 ounce, I believe. That's probably one of the jigs I made with a Lake Fork tackle plastic trailer. That's just a loose reel, lefty, because I always flip with a lefty reel because my power hand is my right hand. So I want the rod in my right hand at all times. I don't have to switch hands. When I first started jig fishing, I was always using righty reels. A good buddy of mine, Jay, back in the day, a long time ago, said, Mark, you got to really try flipping and pitching with a lefty reel because you are a righty. You'll never have to switch hands because if you think about it, if you're a righty and you're casting out, you cast out, you switch hands, and you engage the reel. How many times have you guys jig fishing, you get a bite right on the full the minute that jig hits the water? Sometimes you lose fish. And I can remember we had a tournament, I believe it was an ABA tournament on Monksville Reservoir. I've got myself 2 old Daiwa reels that I think I still got in the closet over there. 2 lefties. I put a line on both of them and flipped all day with them, and I haven't changed yet. I haven't gone back. But if I try to flip with a righty reel now, it just feels weird. I still have righty reels. I use them still for some of my casting. I use them for when I'm like throwing crankbaits and spinnerbaits and chatterbaits. But I can use lefties for that too. Now the lefty feels more normal to me. So if you are a righty and you have not tried flipping or pitching with a lefty reel, I encourage you to give it a try. And one of the subscribers asked me about when I just showed you a quick reel on some books that some of my favorites. I got this on I think on Amazon. It's called Power Hand Bait Casting. And if you guys read this book, you'll probably switch over too. And not that I needed this book to convince me to do it, but if you guys are thinking about it, it's something you want to, practice, get better at. Check this book out, read it, and then just start practicing. Take those lefty reels out with you for a day fishing and just use them all day. And that's what I did. I took them out for an 8-hour tournament. I flipped all day with them. And by the middle part of the day, it felt totally normal to me, and I haven't gone back since. Now the rod is always in my power hand, in my right hand. So I always have lefty reels on my flipping, setups. So that's one of them. That's just, like I said, loose reel, Ardent rod, and that's just a regular flipping and pitching jig. Let's see what else we got here. I just brought the 3 jigs down that I had. This is one of my Beast Coast open water sniper jigs. That's with the Strike King Baby Rage Craw trailer, Sitka reel, lefty, and that's just a Fenwick HMG rod. I believe it's a 7-footer. Yeah, 7-foot medium heavy. That's on my football head jig. And I'll use a medium heavy most of the time or a heavy rod when I'm flipping and pitching. And this is my football head jig setup. That's just a lead-free bass jig. I think that's a 1/2 looking at it. And that is just I believe that's a Crazy Hick Bait Company spider head there. Spider jig. And that's just a Shimano Canon reel. And I believe this is the same. This is actually my football and jig worm rod. I forget the details on this. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, yeah, this is a 7.4 medium heavy. So it's a 7.4 medium heavy. So those are the 3 jig rods I have in the boat right now for fall fishing. And they've pretty much been in the boat all year for fishing. Now, any jig you guys want to use, if you have faith in a Strike King jig or a Kitech jig or Dirty Jigs or whatever company is your favorite, that's fine, that's great. I think they're all awesome. I tend to make my own jigs now. You guys have seen, you can check back. And when I do a description of this video, I'll put some links to some of my older videos on jig fishing. But I think for this video alone, I'm going to kind of stick with flipping and pitching jigs, football head jigs, and I think that's the only ones I really pulled out of the boat. And if you guys want to do a real deeper dive into, like, you know, hair jigs, finesse jigs, swim jigs, things like that, let me know. I can do another video on that. But let me just show you what I've got here and how I like to set my jigs up. So really, like I said, the first thing you got to do is pick a jig. Now, these two jigs I made myself. I just got the jig head, I got the skirt, and I got the rattles, and you can do that. I love in the wintertime making jigs with some different skirts that I've bought over the year. If I found some new skirts I like, and made some new jigs. As you can see, now these are tungsten jigs. Now I've said many times, now I'm in a lead-free state, so now I have a lot more tungsten jigs than I had when I lived in New Jersey. And a lot of these, some of these I've made myself. I buy those Bass Tech tungsten jigs on Tackle Warehouse. I put the skirts on I like. I also have a lot of the Queen Tackle jigs, which I like a lot. They're tungsten. That's the one I've been using the most, I would probably say, this season. Some of these are the ones that I've made myself. So I can get the skirt, the jig head, the tungsten jig head, and then put on any skirt combination that I like. And I have a lot of faith in that brown and orange. It's one of my favorite colors to throw. I also have some Beast Coast in here. You'll see a lot of those because I love Beast Coast jigs. They're excellent. I think I've got some Eco Pros in here. I don't know if, I'm not sure if that's I don't know if that's an Eco Pro or that just might be a Queen too, because I think I have mostly Queen Tackle jigs. But you guys get the idea. These are tungsten jigs. And you can buy the tungsten jig heads from Tackle Warehouse. You can buy, you know, Queen Tackle or a Beast Coast, whoever it is you like to get your jigs from. It's really up to you, whatever jigs you like best. And from over the years, I mean, I've got a ton of boxes. You guys saw the rack up there with the jigs. These are my lead jigs. So if I'm in a non-lead state, or a state where I can use lead, I should say, then I'll throw these in the boat too. And you can see these boxes, these edge boxes are really nice for your jigs. But you can see I've got quite a few, and that's just 2 boxes. And you guys, like I said, if you look back and see that bait room setup of all the jigs, you see all the different boxes I got. So I still have to go through these and kind of clean them up a little bit and replace any that I might have lost. But as I said, any jig you guys want to use, it's up to you. I don't have a preference as far as saying one brand is better than another. I happen to like those Queen Tackles, those Beast Coasts. I use those the most now, or the ones I make myself. That's just kind of where I'm at now as far as my jig fishing goes. Now, the jig I have on here, I think this is one of the ones I made myself. I'm going to snip this off. And what I have on all of my flipping sticks is 20-pound fluoro. I don't flip with braid a lot. I guess if I lived in Florida or somewhere where there was heavy-duty weeds and I was really flipping heavy-duty, you know, weeds and grass all the time, I'd probably have a setup with braid on there. But I have really no problem with 20-pound fluoro. I haven't really gone higher than 20-pound fluoro, but 20-pound sniper, Sunline Sniper is kind of what I use. So here's your traditional jig. You can see this one's been in the water, so it's a little tangled up, and the skirt is kind of stuck in it. I'm going to take this trailer off and use this for the demonstration. Yeah, this is definitely one of those Bass Tech heads and green pumpkin. It's like a sprayed glass or grass type skirt. I've got red rattles on there. I always know when I see these rattles, it's a jig I probably made because I always put rattles on. I always like rattles on my jigs. So here's your standard jig, half-ounce jig. As far as trailers go, I am a big proponent of pork. Now, these are the old super pork that I've shown you guys. Uncle Josh is making pork again. There's on Facebook, Papa E. I know Randy Blockett's talked about it. He makes pork now too, so pork has become a thing again. And I just have these old super porks. I got a ton of them. You guys have seen some of my videos with them. I've got a ton of them. Pork is my favorite trailer. In the summertime, I may tend to use plastic more just because it's easier. I don't have to worry about it drying out. But let's say you want to use pork. If you're going to use pork, and I'll just do a little quick demonstration here. If I was going to put pork on this hook, you always want to put a little piece of worm on there so that the pork isn't flopping all the way down here. So I usually just use like a piece of power worm. I always found that to be a good one. It'll stay on there throughout the day, and it has a little bit of scent too. So this is just a 10-inch power worm. So if I make it a 9.5-inch power worm, it's really not going to make that much of a difference. But I'll cut off like 3, maybe 4 of the segments on a power worm, and you can use any worm you want. Sometimes I'll even use one of the Max Scent General just to get a little more scent on there. And what you want to do, if you're using pork, get all the skirt pieces out of the way. Always add that little piece of worm on your jig before you put your pork on. So now that pork is just going to go right to there. It's not going to be flopping all around and getting out of place when you're fishing it. So if I was going to use this pork now, I don't want to make a mess on the table while I'm trying to do a video either. So I'm going to try to do this. So for you guys who have never seen a piece of, this is just a pork frog. I'm going to make a mess here on the table, but I've got a paper towel to dry it up. Just a simple pork frog. And what you want to do is just pop it through there, especially now the old super porks were very soft. So now this is going to really swim naturally in the water, and I think that is what makes pork so effective. It really looks natural in the water. And as I mentioned earlier, you know, you could talk about swim jigs. I have pretty much used an Arky style head for swimming a jig ever since I've been fishing. You don't have to, I would say, go out and get a so-called bait that is, you know, marketed as a swim jig because it has a different type head and maybe it'll go through the grass better. I've had no problem swimming an Arky style head through the grass, around cover, forever, since I've been throwing a jig. So a lot of times I'm swimming a jig anyway. Sure, if I'm flipping a dock, I'll flip it into next to a dock, next to the pilings, next to a pontoon boat or something. But I'm usually swimming it, you know, next to it. I'll pop it a few times, swim it back to the boat. You'd be surprised how many bites you'll get on that swimming action as opposed to just pitching it into a hole, letting it sit, and pulling it out. So that's with just a piece of pork on there. So I'm going to get this pork off. Now the super pork was always nice because it would pop off easy. You get those Uncle Josh's, you have to have like a special tool or cut it off to get it out. Now let me just dry up some of this so I don't make a mess here. Probably shaking the camera as I knew I would be. All right, so that's if you're going to use, if you guys want to use pork. Now if you're a beginner jig fisherman, pork might be might be more than you want to really deal with. Something to, as you get more experience you can go to. I think it's the best. I think you'll get the most bites, especially when the water's a little colder. I think it looks the most natural in the water. But there's a lot of good soft plastic trailers now that you can use. And I have probably 2 that I use most of the time. You guys have heard me talk about the Power Team Lures Crawl Hors d'oeuvre. That's my number 1. If I'm going to use a soft plastic trailer, it looks very natural. And this is that kitchen sink color, which is just great everywhere, especially in clear water. But I always say that, but it's really good everywhere. Fits really great on the jig. Looks awesome. It's just a great jig trailer. So if you have not tried the Crawl Hors d'oeuvre from Power Team Lures as a jig trailer, give it a shot. You'll do very well with it. Another one I like, and I've kind of come back to it, because I thought that they didn't make them anymore. And this is the old, I forget what they call it, pigtail trailer or something from, it's Lake Fork tackle. I don't think I have it on, I don't have the bag now, but I'll put it in the description for you. And I think they have these on Tackle Warehouse for sale for like 50 packs or 25 packs for like $9 or something. Oh, thank you, Lake Fork Tackle. The pig claw. It says it right on there for people like me who forget the names. So the pig claw. And they have a lot of cool colors. And for you guys who might have bought these back in the day, they work very well. I always like this one. Those orange claws. I always did well with that. But and I would never recommend just doing this with it. I mean, I guess if you left that plastic, you know, on there, you'd have it. I always like to run it through the plastic completely. Just go right up through the middle of the plastic, about halfway, and pop it out. So now it's kind of more, it's even with my hook. I don't like to just put it on there because then it's flopping around all over the place. And then it's further away from your bait. So now I've got the skirt and then the claws are right there. I don't have those claws all the way down here. I don't want to get a lot of short strikes and fish that are biting at the claws and missing the bait. But that's another great trailer option, that pig claw from Lake Fork. And as I said, I thought they were discontinued, and I think they are, but I think that Tackle Warehouse just has a ton of them. So if you want to get some, and you can get a 25-pack to last you forever. That's a great combination. Great combination. So that's just your half-ounce, you know, tungsten jig. Now this would be a jig and pig if you were using if you guys have ever heard the term jig and pig and you weren't sure what it meant, that's what we're talking about. Jig with pork, or if you just do, you know, a soft plastic trailer, or I can't talk. Plastic soft trailer, or soft plastic trailer, I guess I should say. Either one is great, and you can see the Lake Fork has a lot of cool colors. I just pulled a couple out just to show you. Power Team has some cool colors, like that blue one. I just pulled a couple out. It was black and blue. Just pulled that out. If you guys want to see those quick. But there's your options right there. So now you've got your rod and reel set up. You've got your jig. You've got your line. And your lefty reel, if you're a righty. If you're a righty, or if obviously you're a lefty, you want a righty reel. I think as far as fishing a jig, the complaint, I don't want to say the complaint, but the things I hear from most guys is they don't understand the bite. They don't understand what it feels like. They don't feel anything. All I can say is for that is you just have to practice. You have to practice. You have to practice. You have to throw the jig. You have to throw the jig until you get the feel. Once, for you guys who are jig fishermen, you know what I mean. Whenever you feel anything different, it's probably a fish. And as we say in fishing, hook sets are free. If you feel anything different, you set the hook. A lot of times it's going to be a bass. And it's like anything else. The more you throw the jig, the more you get comfortable with it, the better at it you'll get. Your senses will improve on what it feels like to get a bite. And it'll become, I think, the best bait there is to throw. I mean, if somebody said, Mark, you have to throw one bait all day, I'm going to throw a jig. It's just, I don't even have to think about it. I'm going to throw a jig. Because I have the most confidence in it. I think it's going to get me the bigger bite. And if I can have my flipping stick in my hand all day, it's been a really good day of fishing. Because you guys know I love to flip and pitch. And, I've been doing all this talk about all this finesse stuff lately. It's about time I talk about something else. But, like any other activity, practice makes perfect. Get out there if you like I told you the story about when I learned how to use a lefty reel for flipping and pitching. I just took those lefty reels out and flipped and pitched with them all day. Take a box of jigs with you and some trailers out with you all day and just do it and just do it and just do it. Go to a lake that has a lot of docks. Go to a lake that has a lot of wood. Go to a lake that has a lot of nice grass and just flip all day. And you'll get the feel for it. You'll get the feel for it. I mean, there's those times when you'll throw the jig in there and the line will go flying and it's pretty obvious there's a fish on there. Other times when you'll have to work it and you'll get the feel. You'll know what it feels like when you're going through weeds. You'll know what it feels like when you're going through rock and the different kind of rock you're going through. And you'll get the hang of it. You'll get the hang of it. Let me just show you a few other types of jigs. I'm not going to go through every jig, known to man. As I said, if you guys want to talk about, hair jigs or swim jigs or things like that, we can do that in another video. I'm going to stick pretty much with the flipping and pitching videos or jigs, which I showed you. And another jig that I've been throwing a lot is the football head jig. And this is that Beast Coast open water sniper. As I said, 7-foot medium heavy rod. It's a Citic reel, 20-pound line. And this is a little different than your flipping and pitching setup. And I just pulled a couple of these Beast Coast ones out. This is that hybrid jig that has the hair. I think that's a ½ ounce. Let me check. Might be a 3/8. That's a 3/8. It's got that hair in there and that black skirt. I love that color. couple other ones. This is that Baby Dozier football head jig. I think it's a 5/8. Let me double check. Yeah, 5/8. That's from Beast Coast too. It's got a weed guard, so if you're fishing some more gnarly stuff, you want that weed guard, something with a little bigger head. The Baby Dozier is a great option. I have used more this year just the open water sniper because it just works so great. As far as trailers go for that, I pretty much stick with, I like that Baby Rage Tail, which you see on there right now. It's that Strike King bait. I think that's that, I think that's Summer Craw, but I'm not sure. That's a really good trailer. Whatever, if you have a favorite trailer, you could put a grub on there. I probably wouldn't use one of these for that, but I have used the, just show you, this is a Jewel Fish the Moment football head, which I really like. And that's just got one of the Power Team Craw hors d'oeuvres on there. Now this is a bigger football head than let's say the open water sniper. But that's a good combination right there. And the last, I was always the kind of a jig fisherman that the football head jig to me was always kind of hit or miss. I didn't have a lot of confidence in it. I'd catch fish here and there, but I would always just use just a regular flipping and pitching jig instead. But I think now that, you know, people like Beast Coast have come out with better, and, you know, Jewel have come out with better football head jigs, I have more confidence in them. So if I was going to throw this guy here, as I said, you can use any trailer you want. This is a black jig with a black and blue trailer. Should look pretty cool. This is a small hook. I don't want too big of a trailer. Like even that craw hors d'oeuvre is a little big for that. Not that it wouldn't work. You know, like I said, if you've got a trailer you like, you know, go for it. You could use a grub. You could use a Ned. You can use a little swim bait, a little Kitech on these, and throw them around and do well. I showed you that snack craw from Great Lakes Finesse. That's a great trailer for these football heads. Experiment. Try different trailers. See what works. I don't think there's really any bad option. Sometimes you just got to let the fish tell you what they want. Sometimes they want plastic. Sometimes they want pork. It all depends. You know, try different things until you find out what they like. But I like to keep these, especially these open water snipers, as compact as I can. I don't want a big trailer hanging off here. Keep them as compact as you can. That's why I like that Rage Craw, that Baby Rage Craw, because it's so compact. Even for one like this, I would probably use, I would even, you know, go with that 2.8 Kitech, maybe a Ned. Try that Somatis Baits hollow tip worm. Try that on there. They're all good options, all good options. And this is, like I said, this Baby Dozier is a little bulkier, so you could probably get away with a bigger trailer on there. As you can see, that's a bigger, I don't remember what the exact hook gap is there. I don't know if that's a 2 or a 3, but it's obviously bigger than that one. So you can get, you know, base your trailer on the gap of your hook. If you've got a bigger gap hook, you can get away with a little bigger trailer. Here, obviously, you want a smaller trailer. So you don't want to overwhelm the jig with too big of a trailer. The football head jigs, I don't tend to use pork. I do have some of these old Super Porks. I have the Craw, which is a bigger profile, or the Frog Senior. I've tried that on football heads in the past, and with moderate results. I always seem to do better with a soft plastic trailer on a football head, but that's just me. Some of you guys may swear by pork with your football heads too. But even that trailer right there on a football head, on the bigger one, would probably be okay. Not on the small one. But that's it as far as like football head fishing, jig fishing goes. Now this is different than flipping and pitching that we talked about first. When I'm throwing a football head jig, I'm usually off the bank. I'm not flipping it around docks. Not that you can't, but I tend to work when I'm out away from the bank, maybe on the outside of a weed line. I'm looking for a rock. I'm looking for that uneven bottom. And I just, usually when I'm throwing the football head, I'm just kind of casting it straight out from the front of the boat and then letting it sink to the bottom and then just slowly working it back. Little hops, sometimes just a slow reel, a slow crawl across the bottom and just waiting for it to load up. I know when I was using them on Lake Champlain this year, unfortunately, I was catching a lot of drum with them out on some of the humps. And when you, I don't know if you guys have ever caught a drum before, but when you catch one of those drum out there on one of those humps on Champlain, you think you've got a tank for about 5 seconds, and then you realize there's probably a drum or a big northern. But at least for me, those drum were crazy this year, and I even lost a few of my open water snipers to those fish, whatever you want to call them. But I'm working, that deeper structure, throwing it on rock, dragging it around outside of weed lines. And it's really something that I've gotten better at and have more patience with. And I think a lot of it has to do with, I think, just the quality of these football heads is just better nowadays. I think they're just better. But that's, it's pretty simple, the open water sniper. If you throw that one, you're going to catch fish. I don't have that and the Jewel, the Fish the Moment one are really the only two I'm using right now and catching fish with. So, go with them and you guys will be good. The third jig type I want to talk about in this video is the spider jig. And as I said, this I believe is a 1/2 ounce lead-free bass jig. It's one of these guys right here. Let me see. I think that's the 1/2, and that looks like it's the same size. Yeah. One of these guys with the spider jig. And actually, I'll just cut that off and give you a better look at it because I didn't bring another bag with me. Not that I don't have 50 of them on the rack behind me. And as I said, I think this is the jig worm 7.4 medium heavy. Yep. So, for me, personally, I like a bigger rod. I've got long arms. A lot of times I'm using a 7.6. I even have an 8-foot flipping stick I use occasionally, a little castaway. But I'm usually in that 7.6 to 7.4 range with my flipping sticks. And anywhere from medium heavy to heavy. Don't use a medium to go flipping. But here's your standard spider jig football head setup. And as I said, this is a Crazy Hick bait company. This is their version of the spider jig, which is really nice. I think theirs is a 5-inch. A lot of them I'm throwing either 4-inch or 5-inch. And this is just I don't know if this is a watermelon purple flake or a green pumpkin purple flake, but it's really cool. And, they're very simple. You're throwing it just like that open water sniper, same kind of cover, looking for that deep rock. And sometimes plastic outperforms, a skirted bait for me. Sometimes it does. I'll always have it tied on, ready to go, just to see if the fish want it. Sometimes they want this more. This right here obviously is going to be a bigger profile than, say, this with a trailer on it. It wouldn't be as big as this. Or let's see. Make it easy for us here instead of guessing. Just going to snip this off so I can show it to you up close. All right. Should have done that the first time. So here's your, open water sniper. Get that little bit of line off of there. Actually, I might be doing a video because I think I've got some of these coming any day now. Wanted to stock up before my trip to Vermont next week. But here's your open water sniper with your baby rage crew on there. And here's your football. So you can see your spider jig is a little bit bigger. Now this is going to be more subtle. Obviously, you're going to get a little bit of flap with these, but not a lot. And it's going to be just drag it along the bottom. Here now you're going to have a lot of more movement. These are going to give you a lot more movement in the water. So you can imagine with a 4-inch or a 5-inch, 4.5 inch, I guess you could have a lot more movement, especially with the tails than with this. So obviously this is a little more finessey. This might be a little more aggressive. But sometimes they want that soft plastic more than they want that skirted bait. I tend to throw these more than this is a bait I threw a lot back in the day. and I always caught fish on them. I was in Jersey. The reservoirs did well with these spider jigs. I used to love them. They always catch fish, dragging them around. But I would say in the last couple of years, I'm throwing these more. Not that these aren't still great. And as you can see, I've always got it tied on. So I will definitely be throwing this up in Vermont next week when I'm there. And maybe tomorrow if I get out, but I don't know if I'm gonna. But, you know, these are lead-free, bass jigs. For you guys who don't live in a no-lead state, you don't need a lead-free one. But you can check out Lead-Free Bass Jigs website and get their jigs. Get yourself some spider jigs and try them out. So that's really my three, favorite that I use the most jig types. That flipping and pitching jig is my number one. I'm always throwing this around. I've always got it tied on. If I'm going to go out and jig fish, this is the first one I try, especially when I'm just trying to, target cover, things I can see, shoreline cover, laydowns, rocks, weeds, docks. And, if I find the fish are not on that cover and I have to pull back out, away from the shoreline, then I'll go to this football head jig, drag that around. Maybe they're out 10 to 12 to 15 to 20 feet out on rock. Explore that. See if they're around. Try both types. See which ones they like more. And, the jig is such a versatile bait. You can flip it, you can pitch it, you can swim it, you can fish weeds with it, you can fish rock with it, you can fish wood with it. Docks, pilings, boats. I mean, there's times of the year when you can have your pattern on the lake could be floating docks. You might not catch a fish on a dock on the bank the whole day, but you'll slam them on every floating dock. Sometimes you'll slam them on every pontoon boat. You just never know. Sometimes there's something that's attracting them to that particular cover, and they're just sitting on it, and that's the puzzle, figuring it out. But I've had many times where those floating docks on lakes were the ticket. I'm like, there's no dock fish today. You get by one floating dock, you catch one. You go by another floating dock, you catch one. You go to one floating dock, you might catch 2 or 3. You never know. You never know what might be holding them to it. But as you guys know, I love to throw a jig. I could sit here and make this video is 32 minutes. I could talk for hours about it, and you guys would fall asleep and wake up, and I'd still be talking about it. I love to throw a jig. It's versatile. It catches big fish. It's my confidence bait. As I said, if I'm going to do one thing, this is what I'm going to do. I just wish fish knew that I love to catch them that way, and they would just bite this all the time. I guess then maybe it would get boring, but try it out. Try it out. If you're new to jig fishing, start out with the right setup, the right rod, the right reel, the right line. I wouldn't go for anything less than a 7-foot rod. I wouldn't go any lighter than 20-pound fluoro. If you're a righty, try that lefty reel. Give it a shot. See if you can get I'm telling you, in a few hours, it'll feel normal, and you'll never want to go back. Any jig you like, make them. It's fun making them. I'm sure this winter I'll do some videos on making jigs. And when I say making jigs, I'm not pouring these heads. I'm just buying them. But getting the heads, getting the skirts, getting the collars, getting your rattles, your rattle collars, and all that stuff, and just putting the components together to the colors you want. Because you guys know on your favorite lakes, there might be certain colors that are better than others, and you can match the hatch, so to speak, and get your favorite color jig, by making it yourself. But if you guys have never checked out Beast Coast Fishing, check out their website. Great jigs, tungsten jigs for people like us in New Hampshire where we need tungsten. But they have lead jigs too if you're in a state where lead's okay. But as I said, get that set up first. I think probably a lot of guys who struggle with jig fishing, they don't have the right setup. Good rod, reel, line, and you're good to go. There's a million jigs out there, and I'm not going to say one's good and one's bad. If you got a jig that you buy at Bass Pro or wherever you buy it, I'm sure it'll catch fish. And then pick the trailer you like. I happen to like these crawl hors d'oeuvres from Power Team Lures. You can check those out. I know Tackle Warehouse has these pig claws. They still have them available. But you know, whatever trailer you like to use. And if you want to really, you know, go down that rabbit hole and try some pork, I'm going to tell you it's great. I love it. The only thing with pork is it will dry out. So if you're fishing, let's say you're fishing all day, and you've never used pork before, when you put the jig rod down, you're not using the jig. Just take your jig and let it just hang over the boat and sit in the water there, so the jig doesn't dry out on you. Because if it lays out on the deck all day and you're not using it, the pork will definitely dry out. But there are companies that are making pork again. It's a little expensive, but if you want to try pork, it is available. It is available. But that's it. I can't think of anything else to tell you guys on this topic for now. But as I said, if there's any questions, or if I forgot anything, if you want me to go over anything again in more detail, but I think you've got a pretty good start here. If you're new to jig fishing, I think you've got a pretty good start. And take it from there. And if there's any questions, please let me know. Please, I love when you guys give me questions, or you give me in the comments. The comments are great. I appreciate the kind words, and I love when you guys give me ideas for other videos. And I know Grandpa Woody said, "Hey, how about a jig video?" And I know someone else asked me about trailers. So, if as far as jig trailers go, we talked about that, and we talked about jigs. So, I kind of did 2 videos in one. But I really appreciate those comments. It really helps me to come up with new ideas, and even if it's something I did a video on a year ago, it's things change. So it's great to to go through it again. But I think that's it. So like I said, any questions, let me know. I'll put some links for that book. I'll put some, if it's still available on Amazon, I'm not sure. For the pork you can get, I'll put links to that. Beast Coast, Power Team, things like that. And you guys can go from there. Like I said, any questions, please let me know. I love the question. Oh, one more thing I forgot to say. I like to put scent on my baits. Now, this CB's hog sauce is really good. I like it a lot. Mega Strike is really good. Power Team makes a really strong garlic, which is awesome. But I really think, especially when I'm using that pork, that scent really helps on there. It really helps. And whether it's making the fish bite better or not, I think it is, so then it's good. Because, the scent really, there's been times when I've been fishing and it's been slow. And I said, oh, I haven't put any scent on my bait today. Spray it up, put some on there, and things change. So scent does have, I think scent definitely does help. It's like, now a lot of times with these soft plastic ones is, like this has that coffee scent. These have that heavy garlic scent. The Power Teams have that heavy garlic scent, so that helps a lot. Trailers, plastic trailers are a lot better today than they used to be. You don't need to add scent as much. But when I'm using pork, I'm always lathering this up with some scent. So, because it's leaving a nice scent trail there in the water when those legs are swimming around. So don't forget your scent. Get one you like, spray it on there, or get gels and put it on there. I'm a big proponent of scent. Big proponent of scent. Because if nothing else, it's going to take away any bad smell that's there and make it smell more natural. So I just wanted to add that in because I pulled those out and I hadn't said anything about them. So I think that's it. Like I said, any questions, let me know. I appreciate you guys watching. Please like, share the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, when I look at the analytics of the videos now, more people watch these than subscribe. So, hey, it only takes you a second to hit subscribe, and I would really appreciate it because the channel's growing really, really well. Every week, getting bigger and bigger, and that's awesome. I love it. So thanks again. I'll see you guys soon on YouTube. Mark out.